Okay, in this video we're going to learn what exactly trigonometry is with some review from grade 10 last year. So just some review pointers is going to be Sohcahtoa. So Sohcahtoa is an acronym to remember the three primary trig ratios. Those primary trig ratios are sine theta equals opposite over hypotenuse, cos theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse, and tan theta equals opposite over adjacent. So you can see the first letter corresponds to the letter in the acronym. So it's a good way to remember the actual order of the ratios. Okay, so it's A over H, not H over A. Don't make those mistakes. So using this knowledge, I'm actually going to relate trigonometry to a circle, believe it or not. I know you thought I was going to say triangle, but that is not what I'm looking to do, because the triangle exists inside this unit circle. Okay, and a unit circle is just a circle with a radius 1. So this is 1, this is 1, this is -1, this is -1, that's 0, that's y. Okay, so in a unit circle, a point can rotate around this circle at any time. Okay, so let's take this point right here. Okay, I know that this radius from the origin to this point is 1, because the radius of every single point in a circle is 1. Now, knowing that, I can create a triangle here. Okay, and in this triangle, I know for sure this is a right angle triangle. I can find angle theta, which is the angle in standard position we call from the 0. Actually, let's get some labeling in here. This right here is called the terminal arm. And I'm just going to draw a little diagram here so we can remember that if this is my angle, this is my hypotenuse, this is my adjacent, and this is my opposite. Okay, the longest side is always the hypotenuse, and then the one touching the angle that isn't the hypotenuse is the adjacent, because it's adjacent to the angle. Now let's take a look over here. If I want to figure out this length right here, okay, so if I want to find that vertical distance here, well, we can call y, or this horizontal distance, I can call x. I can use the ratios that I know from Sohcahtoa to solve for this. So for instance, sine theta is equal to y over the radius, and the radius is 1. So this means that sine theta is y. And I'm going to do the same over here. This is cos. This is adjacent over hypotenuse. So cos theta is x over 1. Well, this means that cos theta is x. Now, where am I going with this? This means that these actual distances are sine of theta and cos theta. So what's that mean? This means that the actual value of sine theta depends on the vertical distance of the angle in question. So if I rotate this angle around the circle, notice my vertical distance, it's 0. This terminal arm is perfectly horizontal. So sine of 0 is 0. As I start raising up this terminal arm and these degrees in here, so we always find the angle between the terminal arm and the x-axis, always. As this keeps increasing, my vertical distance increases, but my horizontal distance decreases. Sine theta is increasing, cos theta is decreasing. So if I get all the way to the top here, I know that sine of 90, this is 90 degrees, sine of 90 is 1. Cos of 90 is 0. Cos of 0 is 1, because we're talking about horizontal distance. Remember, this is horizontal, and this is the vertical. Okay, take a look if we keep going. We can keep going around this unit circle and enter something we generally haven't entered yet, which is greater than 90-degree angles. So if I'm over here, I know that the vertical distance is positive, right? Because I'm still above the x-axis, but my horizontal distance is negative. This means that in this quadrant, cos is negative, no matter what the value is. Cos of any angle between 90 and 180 is negative. And I can keep going all the way down here, and I know that this is 180. Sine of 180 has no vertical distance, so that's 0. Cos of 180 is -1. And I can keep going until I get to that vertical distance of -1. This is 270. Sine of 270 is -1, but cos of 270 is 0. So I like for you guys to understand the vertical and the horizontal and relating it to sine and cos. Okay, and that third one, then everyone's like, oh, then what's tan? Well, tan is just a ratio of these two guys. It's just sine divided by cos. Okay, or you can consider it as opposite over adjacent. It's the y value divided by the x value. Okay, we can say either or. Now, let's talk about the signs. Signs in trig are really important. Depending on the location of my angle in these 4 quadrants, it's going to tell me if the sign is positive or negative. So let's take a look at this first quadrant over here. In this first quadrant, all my y values and my x values are positive. So everything is positive in this. So we call this all positive, A. Let's take a look at this quadrant. The y values are positive, but the x values are negative. So cos is negative here, but sine is positive. Sine is positive, cos is negative, so positive divided by negative is negative. Therefore, tan is negative there too. So the only thing that's positive here is sine. Okay, I hope that wasn't too confusing. I'm going to do it 2 more times so you'll see it. Now let's look at this quadrant. This is below the x-axis, so the vertical distance is negative. It's to the left of the y-axis, so the horizontal distance is negative. So sine and cos here are negative. But take a look at tan. If sine and cos are negative, negative divided by negative is positive. So tan is positive in this quadrant. Okay, and the last one we're going to come up with is on this side. I know sine is negative because the vertical distance is below the x-axis, but cos is positive. So if sine is negative and cos is positive, tan is also negative here. So the only sign that is positive here is cos. Okay, now, this is called the cast rule. C-A-S-T. If you can remember how to write these letters in here, this just tells you that cos is positive here, everything else is negative. Everything is positive here, all. Sine is positive here, everything else is negative. Tan is positive here, everything else is negative. So if you know that you're finding an angle that is, let's say, right here. I don't know what that angle is. We can call it 120. I know that sine of 120 is positive. I know cos of 120 is negative. I know tan of 120 is negative. So knowing whether it's a negative or positive is a very important foundation when we're getting into trigonometry in this chapter. Okay, so understanding the positive and negative distance, remembering Sohcahtoa, and also understanding the cast rule in terms of location of your angle. You locate your angle and you know where or what's positive and what's negative. Okay, very important, and you'll see in future lessons.